What's up, peeps? It's been a while since I talked about perks, so in today's video I'm going to be talking about what are the best perks to use at the moment in Warzone, but not just the ones that are the best for me. I'm going to be talking about depending on what kind of playstyle you have, like whether you're an aggressive player, whether you're a more conservative player. All those playstyles will be talked in today's video. And also just do be aware, Caldera and Rebirth play differently, but most of my opinions will be based on Rebirth because that's what I'm playing more at the moment, but I will include perks that talk about Caldera as well. With that being said, let's jump into this video. So going into perk 1 slot, here in the page website ranked, it tells us what are the most used things, and you can actually check perks as well. So this one with the perks 1 slot, we can see double time at 40%. It is one of the most picked perks, and I do agree with this one, and I'll go back with it in a little bit. Next up, we got for number 2, we got Cold-Blooded at 34%. I don't agree with this one. Number 3, we got EOD at 18%. Number 4, we got Quick Fix, and then we got Kill Chain, and then we got Scavenger. So let's talk a little bit about these. So the reason why I like double time, and I'm actually making the switch from double time, I used to use Quick Fix, which basically meant that when your health was low and you either downed an enemy or confirmed him, your health would go all the way back up. But I stopped using it because I noticed there was a few issues with this and glitches. Like my health just wasn't going up. Like I noticed it a little bit, and then I purposely killed somebody when my health was low, and I looked down at my health and it wasn't going up, so I completely stopped using it because I think there's a little bit of a glitch. And now I made the switch to double time, and I think double time is one of the best perks you can run, especially if you're running Rebirth. It is so useful, and then you run this with the stims, and oh my god, you are going to be the fastest man alive. So double time basically gives you double the duration of tactical sprint, meaning that you can run faster for a longer amount of time. But also one that people don't really talk about that much is it gives you an increase in crouch movement speed by 30%, and that is very crucial, especially whether you're in Caldera but mostly in Rebirth, when you're trying to get those campers and you're crouch walking up the building so they don't hear you. That's very important because 30% is actually quite noticeable. Like when you got double time, you can definitely tell the difference when you are crouch walking and you go significantly faster. Now Cold-Blooded is a yes and no hit for me. If you're playing in Caldera, then maybe I would say Cold-Blooded is a good idea because I've just seen the rise in thermal scope. Like there's quite a few people that use thermal scopes, and I'm one of them. Like if you use thermal in Caldera, it's just a miracle. Like I mean, you are going to be able to see every single person in that lobby. So running Cold-Blooded in Caldera might not be that bad. I really don't think negating the combat scout, which is when you get shot and you get painted, we're going to talk about that perk a little bit, but I really don't think negating that is really worth it, right? Trust me when I say this, that's just more of a, it's just really more of a nuisance that you're being painted. But it's, if you're really choosing Cold-Blooded solely for that purpose, just don't even use that. The next one that I would say is still good is EOD. I mean, I guess that one's okay. I use it with my Riot Shield class, but nowadays I really think that the days of the RPGs and people throwing C4s and Semtexes has kind of run off. I feel people have switched to the wannabe sweaty side and are running the throwing knives. So I really do believe maybe the EOD is not as the best as it was before. That's what I used to run before, but in today's meta, I really say that you really should not be using EOD unless you are running a Riot Shield class, because well, definitely they're going to start throwing rockets at you and trying to explode you to get you from behind. Now let's talk about perk 2 slot. We got Ghost as number 1 for 47%. We got Overkill at 46%. And this is the one that I definitely don't agree on. I'll talk to it a little bit. And high alert at 2.9%. And I still really can't believe restock has been this low forever at 1.8%. Tempered, we got it at 0.8. Hardline, and then Point Man all the way at number 7. So let's go with which one I believe is the best one if you want to be an aggressive player. Restock, hands down, is what I've always used restock. I mean, I just believe that this is one of the best perks you can have in the game, and I'm just always surprised at how low the count is. And before it was stuns, right? Stuns got a little bit of a nerf, and I don't really see that many people running it anymore, mostly because now a lot of the sweatier players are running stims. I made my switch to stims, but definitely if you run stims, you really need to run restock. But I just feel that restock really allows you to be that sort of aggressive player. If you want to bring your KD higher, right, and you want to turn into those players that are a little bit more aggressive and a little bit sweatier, I would definitely recommend you running restock. Running restock either so you can always have stims to boost, or either stuns because you're going to be an aggressive player, you're always going to be pushing, will definitely increase your KD. Trust me with this one. When you use a perk like, first of all, let me talk about overkill, why you should really not be using overkill, especially in Rebirth or even in Caldera. You know, the ground loot is the same, but now when we have an MP40 in the ground, that MP40 that you can find in the ground is really good. And let's say this video is a little bit outdated and the MP40 isn't in the ground anymore. Really, you can run an AMP class, which let me show you. You can run this AMP class right here, and trust me, a lot of people, every time they come into my stream and they see me using it, they're like, oh my god, what is that secondary that you're using? Trust me when I say this. Obviously, if you face off against a sweaty player with an MP40, he might win that gunfight, but with most of the other SMGs and any other guns that they're using, really the AMP63 does an amazing job. And trust me when I say this, you really don't need to use overkill nowadays, especially again with the ground loot being pretty decent. And if the ground loot isn't good, trust me, run this AMP63 loadout and you will notice it. I just feel, again, talking about Rebirth, you really don't need overkill. I mean, Rebirth is a small enough map where you can just run with your main AR and then run with a secondary that you picked off the ground, or like your AMP. Or if you want to go aggressive, then just pick up that SMG and just push with that SMG. And then again, for the long range, just use one of the guys that you killed. Really, running overkill, I just do believe it's kind of like one of the bodier things that you can do. If you want to improve yourself as a player, trust me when I say this, just really stop using overkill. And then when it comes to Ghost, now this is either a hit or miss, right? It can be good, especially in Rebirth Resurgence, right? Because when they kill your teammates, the little ping will appear in the map, but not the red dot. So if you notice in the map, you'll still get like that little wave sound, but if somebody's ghosted, you won't see their exact ping. So I guess for that, it's okay. You know, obviously sometimes a lot of people like to pop UAVs and stuff like that and use heartbeat sensors, but really when it comes to, especially if you're a Rebirth player, I really don't see why you should be running Ghost. Especially again if you're trying to go for those high gameplay kills, sort of. I mean, Ghost isn't really going to help you that much, because again, if you're being aggressive, I'd rather have my stims locked and loaded or my stuns ready to go. Again, I just feel like Ghost is focused on the players. Like if you want to be a little bit more passive, you want to camp, it's okay. But again, the other reason, again, if you're playing Rebirth, Resurgence, or anything like that, the other reason why Ghost isn't really that helpful is, for example, if you're in the normal game and you face off against a team or an enemy, usually it's only one fight that you're going to do against them, right? If you beat them and they go to the gulag and they come back, more than likely, I mean, they're not going to really drop on you and try to kill you because they're dead. You know, I mean, they're going to be dead because they only have the gulag weapon. So most of the time, what they're going to do is they're either going to go somewhere else or you're not going to fight him again. But in Rebirth, when you kill somebody, they come back. So once you kill them, they know your position. So really having Ghost, I think, and yes, you can have the heartbeat sensors, but with Rebirth having so many floors, like for example, if you're pushing security, if you're pushing control, if you're pushing Nova, any of those, they just have a lot of floors. So when you use your heartbeat sensor, yes, it's going to give you the general idea of where a teammate is, of where the enemy is, but more than likely, you're not really going to get that precise location of where he's at. Also, if one person's running a heartbeat sensor, I say that's completely fine. Like when you're pushing with a team, somebody running a heartbeat sensor, it's good, right? Because you can get that extra information, but really only one person in the team should be running heartbeat sensors. If you got that good person that runs that heartbeat sensors, he should be the one telling you, all right, it's clear ahead. All right, I got nothing here. I got 2 pings at 50 meters northwest, right? If you got one person that is actually good with a heartbeat sensor, that's a good thing to use. But really, again, if you want to take your KD to the next level and be the aggressive player, I always suggest people running perks that lead, that takes the initiative to push people, right? Now, before we get to that point again about leading and being aggressive, we're gonna go with the last one here with the perks 3 slot, and we can see that Combat Scout there is still at number 1 at 40%. I still believe this is one of the worst perks that you can use in the game. Next up, we got 2, which is Amped. That's my personal favorite. Next up, we got Tracker, which is also pretty good. Next up, we got Tune Up, Battle Harden, all the way to the bottom here. I think a lot of people stopped using it since the stuns started going even lower now. And then we got Shrapnel and we got Spotter. So I mean, let's talk about the first one, Combat Scout. I've talked about this before, but the reason why I really don't think Combat Scout is you really got to think about it. Let's put these two perks into perspective, right? We got Combat Scout and we got Amped, which I say is the one that you're, going to be using the most. When is Combat Scout helpful, right? If you're fighting a one-on-one and the dude is in front of you, or, even though there may be a couple obstacles, if he's right in front of you, Combat Scout is absolutely, completely the most useless perk that you can have. Why? Because I mean, he's right in front of you. There's really nothing why you'd want him pinged, right? You're shooting at him, he's right in front of you, you can see him. The only reason why Combat Scout would be kind of good is if you're shooting him like maybe through a window or something like that, and he goes and tries to hide, and he hides in, first of all, a breakable surface, right? Something that you can shoot through. So the odds of that happening are, yes, sometimes it happens in Warzone, but most of the time I really don't think that is the kill. Now that is the way to go. Now let me tell you something why I choose Amped. What do you do? I've talked about this in my other videos before, but I just think it's one of the most important ways to look at what is the best perks for you to use. What do you use more in the game? Where do you do more? Are you shooting at people through walls and through tents and stuff like that? Or are you switching guns? What is the thing that you do the most? Not only that, switching guns and either throwing stuns or throwing tacticals or anything like that. What do you do more? I think the answer is pretty clear, and that's why I go with Amped. A lot of people don't notice, but you throwing thermites or throwing knives or the stuns or pulling out anything like that will actually get you your weapon ready faster. Like when you got Amped, that weapon is ready significantly faster than when you don't have it. And I know a lot of people love throwing knives. With that being said, that's why I believe really Combat Scout is just, I mean, it's just useless. And again, it's just another one of those perks that is really for the more conservative players, right? If you want to be conservative and be behind things and shooting at people through walls, then be my guest. If you want to increase your KD, you want to become a little bit sweatier, and you want to push enemies, Amped is the way to go. Again, because you're going to be using the throwing knives to finish off your enemies, and you want your weapon ready faster. Or you run out of ammo and you have to switch your weapon really fast while you're in the middle of the gunfight. Amped helps you there. So again, if you want to be aggressive, you want to raise that KD and be a little bit more sweaty, use Amped. And if you guys don't believe me about the perks I said really helping you increase your KD, you're like, well, I use Ghost and my KD is pretty high. Let me just give you the overall numbers, right? If we take a look at perk 1 slot, which one is the 2 with the highest KD? Number 1 is Double Kill, which is the one I mentioned. Below that, you got Cold-Blooded, and then you've got EOD. And actually, the one I used to run, Quick Fix, again, all the way up there, just 0.01 difference. If you go to perk number 2, the one with the highest KD, again, that's going to be High Alert and Restock, because usually these players tend to be a little more aggressive. High Alert is pretty good. If you're being aggressive, it'll usually help the players that are good at flicking and stuff like that. But again, here we got Overkill below 1 KD, Ghost at 1.15, which is not too bad. But again, the one with the higher KD, Restock. Why? Because those people just tend to be a little bit more aggressive. Again, if we go here to perk number 3 slot, Combat Scout 1.12, the Amped 1.21. Again, every single perk that I gave you has the highest overall KD ratio out of all of them. Why? Because usually the people that choose these perks tend to be a little bit more on the aggressive and sweaty side. And when you go big for the aggressive, well, that's when you're gonna get the big bomb gameplays. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you guys think. Peace out, everybody, and I'll see you on the next one.